Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So all of the precons are out, all of their lists have been revealed, and I have done some incredibly scientific data crunching research to tell you, very, very scientific, very, very scientific, what the best out of all these precons is, what is the worst, and what is my reasoning. Let's jump into it. So the first category that I have written down in my handy-dandy notebook is Commander Power Potential. So the Commander Power Potential for either the original Commander, that is the face Commander for the Precon, or the one you can swap it out with, but with minimal changes to the deck. Not a complete deck teardown. So let's talk about creative energy first. We've got Satya, Aetherflux Genius, a 3/5 Human Artificer for 4 mana in Jeskai, Menace and Haste. Whenever it attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's copied to one other target non-token creature you control. You get 2 energy counters at the beginning of next end step. You sacrifice that token as you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. Basically, you are going to be getting a lot of energy throughout the game with this deck. You're going to be copying things, and yes, potentially keeping them around. The other potential commander for this deck is Kaith, Famed Mechanist. Now, this one I did mention, and I will mention in a little bit, can be built in a different way, but again, I'm evaluating this first category based on how the deck currently is. A 3/3 Dwarf Artificer for 4 mana in Jeskai, Fabricate 1. Other non-token creatures you control have Fabricate 1, and you can pay 2 and tap, choose 1, Populate, or Proliferate. So obviously that can work well with the actual face commander too, with that population, and proliferation too with that fabricate. So I mean, I guess it works well with the fabricating as well, but yeah, copying little servos is nice, but it's more nice to actually copy bigger things. So this deck wants to actually just say, hey, get a bunch of energy, do some cool energy things. Now, when it comes to how well that works with the current deck, yeah, there's a bunch of energy support in the deck. Next up, Eldrazi Incursion. It's pretty obvious what you want to do with this one. Eldrazi. Ululek Fused Atrocity, 2/5 Eldrazi for 5 mana with a weird combination of colors. Devoid, when you cast an Eldrazi spell, you can pay 2 colors. If you do, you copy all spells you control. They copy all ever activated triggered abilities you control. Choose targets of the copies. Many Eldrazi have triggers. Many Eldrazi can be copied with this, obviously. You can do some pretty powerful things. There's a lot of powerful Eldrazi out there, including in the actual deck itself. So there's already a good amount of support for that. Now, when it comes to the other commander, though, what might be a little more powerful potentially, again, I'm not saying a full deck teardown with maybe some slight tweaks. Usually the deck is just built around the face commander to work best with that. The backup commander can work pretty well with it, but usually not as well. It depends on circumstance, but still. Azlak, the Swelling Scourge, a 2/2 Eldrazi for 3 mana. Whenever it or the colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Pay 5 mana, all Uber colors. Creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn X is the number of experience counters you have. Signs and spawns you control gain Indestructible Annihilator 1 until end of turn. This, in my opinion, is the more powerful of the two commanders. Again, not a full deck teardown is not what I'm considering for this category. Again, commander power potential. We've got a full deck teardown in the future to talk about, but yeah, with some slight adjustments, you can, of course, get even more spawns, scions in play, or just changelings, changeling-type effects, ways to get those in play, and then eliminate your opponents with Annihilator. I mean, if you activate this multiple times in a turn, like, let's say, twice, which does cost a good amount of mana and fixing, but, hey, you've got green. You can do that, right? So, essentially, do that, and then you annihilate your opponents, and they are gone. I mean, their boards are gone. Maybe they're not taken out, but, like, they've got no land, so they're probably just gone, right? The game's over for them. So when it comes to current power potential, that is quite high for this one. It takes minimal adjustments to actually add in those extra spawn scions and build the deck around this one, which again, already a powerful deck around the initial commander, but potentially more powerful around this one. Next up, we've got Graveyard Overdrive. Disa the Restless, a 5/6 human scout for 5 mana in Jund. Whenever a Lurgoyf permanent card is put in your graveyard, put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, put it in the battlefield. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a Tarmogoyf token. Yeah, that is quite powerful. The limitations on it are, though, that there's only so many Lurgoyfs out there. Obviously, you could add in some changelings with some minor adjustments to this as well. and also add in some ways to potentially entomb creatures. I'm not just saying just the card entomb, but the cards that essentially say, hey, go tutor out any card in your library, put it directly in your graveyard, and have fun with that. You could add in some more of those kind of factors, or some mass mill effects. There's already some things in the deck that obviously work with that, but still adding in a little bit more could help. And of course, whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to a player, you make that Tarmogoyf token. If you actually have your creatures maybe have double strike, you could actually get even more of that, or yeah, some extra combats as well could help with that. So there is potential for this one. It is built around this one, but there's only so many Lurgoyfs out there compared to like Eldrazi, where there's like a ton and a lot of powerful ones. There's less Lurgoyfs out there, so keep that in mind. That being said, Korm the Undertaker, again, the deck is more built around the the face commander of this. This is still a powerful commander if you swap it in. 0/5 Human Warrior for 4 mana in Jund, +X/+0 XE Grace power among creature cards in all graveyards. Whenever this creature attacks, each player mills a card. During each of your turns, you may play a land, cast a spell from among cards in graveyards that were put there from the libraries this turn. I would say if you wanted to fully optimize this deck around this commander, it probably, I'm not going to say like a full rebuild would be necessary, but a big rebuild would be necessary. Probably not on the level of Kaith, which we'll talk about here in a bit, but a rebuild would be necessary to actually make this the real focus of the deck. You can swap it in, and it will do pretty well, but again, if you wanted to go the, hey, okay, again, entomb certain creatures, like a Lord of Extinction kind of thing, get a lot of giant creatures out there, maybe some fling effects or just some power matters types effects, there'd be some decent amount of changes that you'd have to consider to actually make this deck more and more effective around this one, so just keep that in mind. That being said, yeah, I mean, the front side is decently powerful with the way the deck is built. Next up, Omo, Queen of Asuva, a 1/5 shapeshifter noble for 3 mana in Simic. Whenever it enters battlefield or attacks, put everything counter up to 1 target land and 1 target creature. Each land with everything counter on it is every land type, just other types. Each non-land creature with an everything counter on it has every creature type. So basically play with some everything shenanigans, making all your lands into all land types. There's certain land types out there, like say locusts, that care about other locusts in play, or gates, etc. So being able to do that is quite nice. And then also being able to turn your creatures into all things allows you to get extra benefits from, Lord type effects as well. The other commander in this is a probably more standard Simic commander, I would say. Jyoti, if I'm saying that right. Moag Ancient, a 2/4 elemental for 4 mana in Simic, enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token for each time you cast your commander for the command zone this game. Beginning of each combat, land creature control +X/+X till turn. X is Jyoti's power. I guess it's slightly different, though there is ramping involved. It is more limited ramping with those forest dryads, so do keep that in mind, because they can get taken out by, say, wraths, but still, yeah, you're going to have a lot of mana, so you can keep recasting your commander if you swap this one in. That being said, again, the deck is built around that front side for the most part, though obviously this can be swapped in and work. There are a good amount of powerful cards in this deck as well. Again, we'll get to the reprints, we'll get to the new cards here in a little bit, but when it comes to the evaluation overall, in my opinion, the way that I am breaking these down when it comes to the commander power potential with the way the decks are currently built, and yes, with minor upgrades, minor adjustments, not a full deck rebuild, I have at number 1, and let's just scroll up so I can do it this way, and just I'm going to put the face commander up, although the other commander might be the more powerful one, depending. I've got Eldrazi Incursion at number 1 out of these. I've got Graveyard Overdrive at number 2. I've got Tricky Terrain at number 3. And at number 4, my apologies, Creative Energy. When it comes to commander power potential, with the way the deck is currently built, the current focus of the deck, and with the current build of the deck with minor adjustments, that is the numbering that I have for those. So this is just the first out of the 5 different categories that I'm evaluating on. Let's talk about the upgradability, though. When it comes to the upgradability, this is a bit harder to evaluate thing, I believe, because, when it comes to actually buying a Precon and then utilizing it, changing out certain pieces, different players have different ways that they go about doing that. That being said, when it comes to the actual power potential, I would say if you were completely fine with, revamping the entire deck after a while, yeah, the power potential of this one in particular might be surprising, but Kaith, Famed Mechanist, Creative Energy goes from the least power potential, in my opinion, with an energy focus to a non-energy focus at all. Literally taking out all the energy cards completely and going into a combo focus, which, and I'll talk about this at the end, I know is not for every play group, I know is not for every player out there, But this commander can very, very easily combo because it has other non-token creatures you control at Fabricate 1, which means that when a creature comes into play, you can give it a counter. Yeah, you don't really care about that servo, though I'm sure there are also combos with that too. Really like alter, Phyrexian alter kind of stuff I'm sure you could do. Regardless, being able to get a +1 counter on a creature when it comes into play makes it so that persist creatures can very easily go infinite with a free sacrifice outlet. And yes, just to rehash this, back in the past when I was playing Magic when I was a kid, that wasn't the case. You didn't have, like, persist, -1/-1 counters, and then +1 counters, they did not cancel out. You just kept track of both. Now they cancel out, essentially, so if a persist creature comes back into play, you fabricate that counter on it, then all of a sudden, the -1/-1 counter and the +1 counter are both gone, and then you can keep sacrificing it again, like with a Goblin Bombardment. So with this, again, if you built this deck, the full upgradability of the deck, if you were to rehash this deck and just say, you know what, around this commander, yeah, there are certain things you can keep in there, obviously, but being able to just change the entire purpose of the deck from being energy to being around this and fabricate and persist, this to me is the #1 power potential for upgradability is Kaith Femmed Mechanist, which might surprise some people. Next up at number 2, and I'm going to go in order on these, we've got Azlask the Swelling Scourge. This one is, again, what I would build the actual deck around, not the face commander. Again, ironically, the two that I've brought up so far are the non-face commanders. We'll see what happens with the rest of these. But yes, the number 2 one would not be Ulalek. It would be Azlask the Swelling Scourge, because this is a commander that is quite brutal. And again, like I mentioned earlier, sure, you can get a bunch of Eldrazi out and do some pretty fun and crazy things, but really, at the end of the day, with this one, you just want to flood the board with Scions and Spawns and activate that ability as many times as you can and swing and take out your opponent's permanents with Annihilator. Again, at a certain amount, it doesn't matter what your opponents do. If you have enough Spawns and Scions in play, or again, add in some Changelings, add in Maskwood Nexus, add in Mere Entity, add in cards that can change all your creatures to become Changelings to make it so that when you swing, your opponents are sacrificing at the very least 1 permanent for every single creature swinging at them. Obviously, extra combats can work as well with this, extra activations of this. Yeah, there are ways to make this pretty gross, disgusting, and all your opponents sacrifice all their things and you win. And obviously, if you have like Turgid or Hit That Betrays, you actually steal your opponent's things, which is probably not necessary, but you can do that too. So essentially, building around this with a focus not on Eldrazi Tribal necessarily, but building around just getting a bunch of Spawn Scions maybe populating, getting a ton of tokens in play, getting Maskwood Nexus in play, changing everything you have into Spawns and Scions, activating that ability as many times as you can. Again, ramping to the point where you could literally activate this twice, maybe even 3 times in a turn. Your opponents are gone. It does not matter if you can actually pump those creatures, because it doesn't matter that you're hitting your opponents or not. If you swing at an opponent with 10 Annihilator triggers, 12 Annihilator triggers, 15, 20, whatever it is, they're going to be sacrificing their entire board and they're going to be out of the game. So this, to me, is the number 2. It does require more setup, I would say, than the combo potential of Kaith. So number 2, when it comes to upgradability, again, less major adjustments, but still decent enough adjustments around this one. Number 3, we've got Graveyard Overdrive, and actually, I would go with Korum the Undertaker for the commander that I would actually say is the more high power potential, just because simply, and yes, Disa does have a good amount of power potential because, sure, you can use those Entomb effects with an upgrade. You can get Lurgoyfs directly from your library into play, basically. That being said, Lurgoyfs are more limited when it comes to power potential. There aren't that many out there. Yes, we did get some new ones, sure, but when it comes to, like, vast amounts of power potential, Eldrazi have them beat, and of course the Annihilator thing has them beat too. So with this, I would just build around giant power potential creatures, like, say again, like I mentioned earlier, like Lord of Extinction, things like that. You just get things directly into your graveyard that have an absurd amount of power very, very, very quickly, and then all of a sudden your commander becomes a one-shot KO in no time. You can also utilize things like Soul's Fire that deal direct damage to your opponents based on the power. A lot of different ways to do that, essentially. There's ways like fling effects, there's double damaging effects, there's double powering effects that you can really take advantage of. Power Matters type synergies can work very well with this, and obviously, if you just have a simple, say, Ghoul Caller's Bell, you can actually utilize that for some extra card advantage with this commander as well at that second part too. So I would say, building around this one, it would be, again, a pretty big change to actually change the deck from Lurgoyf Tribal and some graveyard shenanigans to, hey, Power Matters strategy, get big things into graveyard, and all of a sudden utilize your commander's power to its fullest extent. finally, my apologies, but when it comes to the last one, Tricky Terrain, that is at 4th place. It comes to upgradability. I would say between the two, this one is interesting. Omo is interesting, but Joti probably has more potential overall, though both, I would say, are similar. They're not your typical power potential commanders when it comes to doing incredibly broken things, though I'm sure there are some broken things that you can do with this. I mean, with Joti, if you had like that one cost reducer when it comes to your commander, you know, every time it's in the command zone, costing less, you could do some enchantment things so you can actually have it, you know, essentially, there'd be ways to go infinite with this one. You need to give haste as well, Concurrent Crossroads, but ways to keep getting more and more Dryades every single time you cast your commander. And again, essentially, that cost reducer for every single time you've cast your command zone for the command zone's game. Also, token doublers as well could do that as well. So, yes, if you built around this one more so, again, with, I would say, more of a combo potential, essentially. It does require a lot of setup to get there, but I would say this is probably more powerful, more power potential than the, hey, everything is everything type commander. So, especially since this is a 2-color commander. Yeah, I mean, there's also the finisher with the lands as well. This would require, again, a lot of changes to the deck, a lot of changes to the strategy to actually make work, but I think that this would be the most. So again, in order, let's just talk about these one more time just to get this written down. So in our second category, upgradability, which includes a potential full rebuild around even the other commander, I would say Kaith is that number 1 in that. So creative energy right there. Eldrazi Incursion, thanks to Azlax at number 2. Then we've got with Korum, Graveyard Overdrive. And then we've got with Tricky Terrain, Joti, Moag Ancient. Ironically, apparently, according to me, and again, everyone's got their own opinions on these things, these secondary commanders, when built around completely with the ways that I just said, in my opinion, would be the most powerful ones. So again, 1 is Creative Energy, 2 Eldrazi Incursion, 3 Graveyard Overdrive, and 4 Tricky Terrain. Moving on, a bit of a tricky category. We're going to be talking about, let me read my notes, new card potential. So the new cards that are actually in the deck. We've already talked about the commanders and the way the decks are currently built, the ways that you can potentially adjust it. Let's talk about the current power potential of cards that are in here and potentially their demand as well, because some of these do have prices listed, though we're pretty early on right now, so the prices are going to adjust potentially pretty drastically over time. So we'll talk about reprints here in a little bit too. It's not included in those numbers, but let's talk about the applicability of these cards, the power potential of these cards, how good these cards are, and again, not what their prices might be, but yeah, how in demand these cards might be. Silverclaw Lecturer is one that does stand out from the Creative Energy deck. Creature spells you cast have Demonstrate. That can be a very powerful thing. Be able to copy out your creature spells and say, oh, okay, I can also make a buddy with an opponent. Group huggy-ish with that, but also you're willing to copy your creature anyways because you're getting the value out of it, and you're just going to potentially give it to the weakest opponent if you don't have like a good deal that you can make with them. So you can just be like, hey, you over there, hey, do you want a creature? They're like, no, I don't want to deal with you. We're like, okay, well, you're the weakest player, so you get this one, and I'm getting an extra one. So obviously you can play with ETBs and stuff like that. Pretty high in demand card, I believe, and can be played in a lot of different amount of strategies. The other ones in this one, again, are pretty specific. Like Stone Idol Generator, this is a nice token generator. Like if you got a go wide strategy, you don't need to have an energy deck. A lot of these, though, are very energy specific. That being said, this one could be applicable in other decks out there. Again, like you have a bunch of creature tokens, just swing. Cool, all right. I tap, I make, I pay 6 energy, I just had to attack with 6 creatures, I make a 6/12 with trample. Great. Only sorcery speed, that's fine. So this could actually see play, again, in token strategies, go wide strategies, populate strategies. It doesn't have to be an energy specific. Nothing against energy, but yeah, that's probably not the most powerful build when it comes to these kinds of cards, when it comes to these kinds of decks. We've got Sphinx the Revelation. This one could definitely see play in life gain strategies. Whenever you gain life, you get that many energy. I mean, there's life doubling effects out there, like, is it Beacon of Immortality, whatever that one is, Beacon of Tomorrow, something like that. Double up your life total, go from 40 to 80. Cool. All right, you just gained 40 life. All right, awesome. I pay 3 mana and tap this, and I pay 40 and I draw 40. Yeah, that can definitely see play, obviously, in life gain decks. So again, outside of energy, some of these cards do have some applications. Salvation Colossus, it's a big creature, 9/9 flying vigilance trample for 8. You can ignore that unearth, pay 8 energy if you're not utilizing an energy deck. And then whenever you attack creatures you control, other creatures you control, plus to withstand again, indestructible of turn. So a heavy hitter could definitely utilize this. An artifact creature deck could definitely utilize this as well. And in combat, attack triggers could as well, though it is quite heavy up top, so that is quite the card. But again, most of these, I would say, for the most part, are very energy specific, and therefore aren't as applicable to other strategies, again, for the most part. Next up, though, Eldrazi Incursion. Here's the thing. Eldrazi, even outside of Eldrazi Tribal, do have a good amount of application because many of them are quite powerful, like Ulamog's Dreadsire. You don't have to be in Eldrazi Tribal to utilize this. A 10-10 Eldrazi for 10 mana Vigilance. Ward sacrifice a permanent mana value 1 or greater. So it's it's an okay amount. Again, they can't just sacrifice tokens, which is nice. Tap, create a 10-10. Yeah, so if you're in a big mana strategy, a big creature strategy, a cheat things into play strategy, this can be a heavy hitter for you. And again, that has a lot more applicability than, say, energy. Also, Twins of Discord. Hey, 8/6, whenever you attack, choose odd or even. Creatures with mana value of that quality can't block this turn. Each other color's creature control has Bloodthirst 2. I mean, even if you're not caring about the Bloodthirst 2 for colorless creatures, if you're in a colorless creature deck, great. But if you're not, like, you can still utilize this to be like, okay, I can attack more effectively. There are going to be times when an opponent only has one or the other, and you can just get through on them. So, yeah, again, you're going to have a lot more applications when it comes to this. When it comes to some other ones, I mean, Selective Obliteration, again, is a great removal spell, so that can be very nice. Some of these are a little more specific, but like Inversion Behemoth, okay, a 2/9, this is the beginning of combat, your turn switch the power tokens to each of any number of target creatures till end of turn. I mean, this does have, obviously, applications with, like, walls strategies, defender strategies, but potentially, I mean, it's a decent blocker for you as well, and can really mess with certain opponents that have, again, unbalanced creatures in play, I should say, with ones that have greater power than toughness, that kind of thing as well. Hideous Taskmaster can obviously be a pretty good threat, essentially. Yeah, just gaining, it's kind of like a mass mutiny, but also with Annihilator and a decent threat. Some of these are a bit specific, but, you know, a lot of them, again, Chittering Dispatcher has a good amount of application outside of just Eldrazi Tribal. 2/3, Devoid Myriad. The Myriad's what matters here. Leaves the battlefield, create a 0/1 spawn. So, again, for 3 mana, you are getting, potentially, and just with one attack, even if this gets taken out, 3 bodies. So, therefore, yeah, you can utilize this Aristocrat strategy deck, kind of like a Weaponcraft Enthusiast. But also, if you can keep attacking with this, you get more and more and more value out of it, making more and more Eldrazi spawns. So, yeah, it's got a good amount. Many of these have a good amount, essentially, of extra value outside of just what it does. Eldrazi Tribal, Benthic, and Anomaly. 7/8 Eldrazi Serpent. When you cast it for each opponent, you basically make a giant clone of one of their creatures. You just pick one creature that you're making the actual clone of, and then you get the total power and toughness of all 3 creatures that you chose. So, yeah, that has application outside of just Eldrazi Tribal. You can have a giant bomb with this, a giant creature with this. A Populate deck can utilize it very, very effectively. Clone deck as well. So, yeah, again, Eldrazi Incursion, although many of these are like Eldrazi, and it might seem like, well, why does that one apply to just more general goodness versus others? It's because Eldrazi typically do. When it comes to tricky terrain, this one does have some good applications. I mean, Sunken Palace, it has a good amount of, like, weird lands that this one is just more applicable than some of the other ones are. Enters battlefield, tap for a blue, pay 2 mana, essentially tap, exile 7 cards to your graveyard, tap, add a blue. When you spend this mana, cast a spell or activate ability, copy it. Yeah, if you have, again, a decent amount of ways to fill your graveyard, whether you're like in a Spellslinger type strategy, you get a lot of things in your graveyard anyways. If you've got a mill deck, a self-mill deck, if you've got a deck that has a bunch of wheel effects in it that like fill your graveyard, a bunch of discard. Yeah, this is a card that's just pretty incredible. It can double up any of your spells. Again, not just instant sorceries, any of your spells or abilities, double those up. That's really, really good. Sage of the Maze, a great mana dork, essentially, that can also have a, well, finisher for a Gates deck out there. Outside of a Gates deck, it's still a great mana dork. Again, very good at mana fixing. Tap to add 2 mana of any combination of colors. Rampant Frog Gantua is just funny. I mean, it can be like in a Power Matters synergy deck if you really want to do that. It does require a player to be gone for it to be a 13/13 for 3 mana or a 23/23 if 2 players are gone. That being said, just being able to potentially ramp as well when you do hit players with this is quite nice. So again, if you got ways to pump it, that can already be quite nice. Again, there are decent amount of applications. Like certain lands are, yes, better in desert decks. Like this one, Lazep Quarry is better in a desert deck. It's more specific for that. But you could utilize it too, like in a deck that just wants to sacrifice creatures. Like 99 Lands Child of Alara. I mean, there's other lands too. Like High Market, is that the name of the one? being able to sacrifice creatures to gain life. Just having this on a land is great for, again, like aristocrat style decks that actually want to sacrifice creatures, so do keep that in mind. Others, again, are more specific. They are more specific on what they want to do, what kinds of decks they want to be in, but like aggressive biomancy. Do you have a bunch of great ETBs creatures or a bunch of creatures that have a lot of power? Cool. You create X tokens or copies of target creature control, except they have, when this creature is in the battlefield, it fights up to one target creature they don't control. So you also not only have like a massive token producer with this that can be a massive creature, also get whatever ETBs those are potentially from that creature, but you also fight creatures as well to take them out. So it's also kind of like a board wipe too. So again, a good amount of application for that. When it comes to Graveyard Overdrive, this one also has a good amount of application to it as well. Final act. Hey, choose one or more destroy all creatures, destroy all planeswalkers, all battles, all graveyards. Each opponent loses all counters. This one is not quite farewell. It is quite good. It does technically get rid of things permanently, but the difference between this and farewell is farewell exiles them right away, so it gets around indestructible. This does not. So like if something's indestructible, something can regenerate, you're destroying it, it doesn't matter, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you can't exile from the graveyard. So there you go. It still gets rid of them permanently, though, which is quite nice. But yes, this one does have a decent amount of cards that are applicable, but some are more so, again, pretty specific on what they want to do, being for mostly, again, well, yeah, Lurgoyf Tribal, essentially. There's also other ones that do make creature tokens on death or entering the battlefield as well, so there are applications. You also have some Cascade synergy as well, of like Bloodbraid Challenger as well. I would say overall, though, this one does have a little less application than the other ones. When it comes to cards crossing over, it is pretty specific versus some of the other ones are a bit more general and how good their cards are. So at the end of the day, I think the actual order of these is going to be, for new card potential, we've got Eldrazi Incursion at number 1, we've got Tricky Domain at number 2, we've got Graveyard Overdrive at number 3, and we've got Creative Energy at number 4. So for that category, that is how those line up. Next up, this might be the most straightforward category. Actually, well, the one after this is too, but this is going to be based off of reprint value. What kind of reprint value are getting from the set, or from the actual cards in the precons compared to the other ones? That being said, keep in mind, obviously, there is going to be value from the new cards as well, but those prices for the new cards, again, are going to be a lot more variable than, obviously, ones that have a longer track record. Those are pretty up in the air for now, and then when they come out in a couple weeks afterwards, they're going to be still adjusting. So we can keep in mind the actual value from the actual cards themselves, mostly being, well, known from the actual reprint value for the most part, okay? So just that's the way I'm going to be evaluating that. Keep in mind. So for reprint value, let's start things off at Creative Energy. I'm just going to keep starting, I guess, alphabetically. I don't know why I'm doing this way, but I am. $84.48 worth of reprint. So this one, I will give you a hint, is on the lower end of the reprint spectrum. It does have some really good ones in there, like Goldspan Dragon, a very in-demand card for treasure decks, doubling up on essentially your treasure's mana. Chroma's Will, a crazy good instant that can be a great finisher for you. Basically give your creatures every single keyword in the book. So yeah, there you go. Gandhi's Aether Heart, I actually didn't realize got up to $9. My goodness. This is a specific reprint in that it works very well with energy decks and some other weird things that you can do as well. But yeah, it is an extra turn spell in a way. I'm sure there's infinite combos with it as well. Actually, there definitely are infinite combos with it. I think Mishra's got some infinite combos with it. But yes, this can be obviously a pretty good card. Not as applicable for every strategy out there. Professional Facebreaker at $5.95 right there as well. Hey, getting treasures. That's obviously going to be a pretty popular thing. Farewell, one of the best board wipes out there. Deals with artifacts, creatures, enchantments, graveyards, whatever combination of those that you want. Exiles all of them. So yeah, a very, very, very good card that is applicable to a lot of strategies out there. Aetherworks Marvel, again, pretty specific on what kinds of decks actually want it. $5 or so right now. So a lot of these reprints, I mean, again, there's a couple decent ones out there for this deck. Just compared to some of the other decks, not quite there. Next up, let's go through Eldrazi Incursion, and this one actually is at $101.96 worth of reprints, according to Moxfield, I should say. So we've got Eldrazi Conscription at $12. So we're not at the higher end compared to like the Goldspan Dragon, but still a card that is in decent demand, a very spicy card. Yeah, if you can cheat this into play on something, there are different ways to do that. That is quite nice. +10/+10, trample on either two. Turn any of your creatures into an Eldrazi Titan, essentially. Eldrazi Monument, a very, very good card, especially for go-wide strategies. +1, flying indestructible for all your creatures. You have the sacrifice creature upkeep, but some decks actually want to do that again, like Aristocrat style. So, yeah, protect your team, make them evasive and also slightly bigger. That's well worth it. Next up, Morphon the Boundless, a very popular commander and a very good card in the 99 of certain decks out there. Has its own infinite combos as well, but yeah, I mean, I guess my Morphon Monuments deck with the Shrieking Drake stuff is kind of off to the side, but still. Obviously, Eldrazi Temple. I mean, these kinds of Eldrazi-specific cards do have a higher demand than other tribes, essentially, or certain other tribes like Lurgoyfs. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have a higher in-demand factor for these types. Eldrazi Forsaken Monument, a very good reprint as well at $4. More of these reprints in Eldrazi Incursion are, I mean, they're not on the high-end spectrum like Goldspan Dragon, but they are more like in the middle. There's a lot more kind of middle ground when it comes to these reprints, so that's why it's at, again, a decently higher price. Again, $101.96 worth of reprints. Graveyard Overdrive. Let's talk about this one really quick. Graveyard Overdrive has $106.31 worth of reprints. The Reaver Cleaver at $14.84. Yeah, hey, making treasures. Gonna be expensive every single time when you have a card that is very effective at making treasures. It hasn't seen a lot of reprints, or any really. Yeah, whenever you're hitting an opponent, or daily combination of player Planeswalker, I should say, you get that many. You're going to make a lot. Selvala, a brokenly good commander, and also to say a very good card in the 99 of big creature decks, essentially. Great card draw, as well as absurd amounts of mana. Obviously, some infinite combos there as well, $12. Archon of Cruelty, a very cruel card. Enters battlefield or attacks. Don't sacrifice a creature, Planeswalker, discards that card, loses 3 life. You draw a card and gain 3 life. A lot of value to be had there. A huge heavy hitter for you that is just so much value throughout the game. Again, around $12 right now. I cannot believe Masquerade Nexus is $10. When I first built my next Masquerade Nexus deck, it was much more budget friendly than that. Thank you for the reprint, Wizards, on this one. More reprints, please. Basically, every single one of your creatures is a changeling. Very good for, like, Lord Tribal Effect decks. Decks that really care about everything being being everything, essentially. So all your creatures being that. It can also make changeling tokens, again, $10. So as you can see, we already have, like, more of these, like, mid-higher end kind of reprints in this one so far. Does drop down. Challenger's Ignition, $5 or so, a great removal spell. Grist, the Hunger Tide, a fun planeswalker itself. And of course, Lightning Greaves, yeah, always gonna be, you know, a high in demand when it comes to commander. Moving on though, Tricky Terrain, the last of them. This is where you get a massive jump when it comes to reprint value, $141.77. Apex Devastator, devastating all other cards in the reprints right now with its price, $20.37 currently. Again, these prices will adjust, obviously, over time with these influx of cards. That being said, yeah, this is a good amount of application. Do you like big creatures? Cool. This is a really fun big creature you cascade 4 times. Do you like Cascade decks? Cool. Do you like Hydra decks? Cool. Yeah, this is a really crazy card. There's a reason why it's $20. Vesuva, a very strange and weird card. $50.66, and battlefield tapped copy of any land on the battlefield. It's going to be very good for, well, fixing mana or doing broken things as well. So yes, it is a $15 land right now. Mana Reflection, hey, double up your mana. Yeah, that's always going to be a very, very, very good thing in Commander. $14, I guess in any format, but still, it's a bit slower in other formats. So in Commander, it's like, oh, I can wait around and actually play this and actually get a lot of value out of it. Also, some combo things you do that too. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. Every land is a forest. Cool. Congratulations. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this. And also just fixing your mana when it comes to forest is great. $12. There's a reason for that. Uro, Titan Invasion Breath. Again, another $12 card. Dryad, another $12 card. Dark Depths. We finally jumped down a little bit at $6 for this one. Yeah, $141. When it comes to the actual reprints, it looks like Tricky Terrain is definitely above the rest of them. So when it comes to the actual breakdown for the reprint value, we have number 1, Tricky Terrain. Number 2, Graveyard Overdrive. Number 3, Eldrazi Incursion. Number 4, Creative Energy. So reverse order the way I went through these. Okay, now let's talk about the next category, checking notes. Price. Very simple. Right now, what is the price of each of these that you can expect to pay at this very minute? Well, it actually varies. When it first started off, it looked like they'd all be about $70, right? But then all of a sudden, it's like, wait, no, the Eldrazi one's not available. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But right now, it looks like some of these prices have already adjusted based off of the brand new, deck lists coming out and people adjusting based off of expectations. So it looks like Creative Energy right now is the cheapest, the most affordable. As a budget player, I of course can appreciate that. $48.68. Again, down from like $70 if you're pre-ordering it a little while ago. Next up, we've got the Graveyard Overdrive deck at $51.96, so a little bit of a jump up from the previous one, but still around that range. Next up, we've got Tricky Terrain, again, $54.92, a little jump again. Probably some of that reprint value in there is probably what is maybe driving that one potentially. And then finally, hey, Eldrazi Incursion, kind of not a surprise at all. $143.47. Basically worth more than all the other three combined, or around the same. So yeah, that is pretty absurd when it comes to that price jump. Of course, when it came to like understanding which one was probably going to be the most expensive, pretty easy to guess that the Eldrazi one was probably going to have the highest demand because Magic players find Eldrazi to be very interesting. And it's also a very powerful deck. And yeah. It actually, again, earlier we saw that this one was not even, like, for sale, like, on Amazon. Like, you couldn't find it because all the other ones were, like, $70 you want to pre-order. It's like, what about that other one? It's like, don't worry about that other one. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you want to buy all four together, though, the current price of those, I guess I should just mention, is about $240. So I guess a little bit of a discount if you would add them all up separately. But still, again, Eldrazi Incursion is really driving that price up, it seems. Though, again, at the onset of this, again, with each one being, supposed to be $70 a piece or whatever, this is lower by about, $40.01, because, again, $280 would have been that total price. So there you go. That being said, when it comes to the price, again, when it comes to the value that you have to pay, the best, obviously, is Creative Energy at the cheapest amount. Then we've got Graveyard Overdrive, then Tricky Terrain, and then a giant gap, a lot more expensive, again, with Eldrazi Incursion. So, wrapping things up, again, with my incredibly scientific, numbers-driven approach, I have written down, again, those numbers that I told you about on every single one of the categories. Again, the 5 categories were the Commander Power Potential, without completely demolishing the entire deck. The next was Upgradability, including completely demolishing the entire deck and upgrading it. Then it was New Card Power Potential, Reprint Value after that, and then Price. I added up all those, and it's actually golf scores, ironically, because I did the 1 is the best, 4 is the worst. So, when it comes to the actual numbers, and I will give you my actual kind of analysis of this, let's start off at number 4 with 14 points. Again, the more points is worse, the less points is better. We've got in 4th place, Creative Energy. Next up, though, at 3rd place with a total of 13 points. Again, it was a close race. We've got Tricky Domain. Then at 12 points, good enough for 2nd place, we've got Graveyard Overdrive, which, of course, leaves, to some, not really all that surprised, at number 1, we've got Eldrazi Incursion. Eldrazi Incursion was very high in ranking when it came to Commander Power Potential, Upgradability, New Card Potential, a bit lower on the reprint value, and definitely lower on the price. It depends on how much you want to weigh each of those things, and just kind of what you want out of all this. When it comes to what I would personally buy, well, I don't think I'd be buying the one that is 3 times more expensive than the other ones. So there is that. That being said, again, and also when it comes to 4th place, like Creative Energy, like if you literally just want to build around the other commander, I mean, you don't have to necessarily buy the entire deck, right? You could just buy that commander itself, Keith, and then build a deck around that. So there you go. So there is that potential for it as well. But again, it depends on where you want to be with all this. Again, if you're looking for reprint value, obviously Tricky Terrain's really good. If you're looking for a unique deck around a different creature type, the Lorgoyfs are for you. So it just really depends on what you want. And actually, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. The reason Bobble's on here is because Tier Maker made me put a 5th category. So Bobble it is. So there you go. Bobble for reference. But yes, let me know what your thoughts are all on all of this in the comments below. I think it's an interesting way to kind of go about and seeing, okay, with these different aspects of evaluating a pre-con, just what are you looking for? Do you want to weigh these in different ways? Do you just really like Eldrazi and that's going to win no matter what? Do you like the reprint value of another one? Do you like the potential of, getting a deck, playing with it, and then upgrading it and changing a different way or swapping out the commander? What are you looking for? So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on these tier rankings. Let me know what your thoughts are on what your favorite of these commanders is, the least favorite, the best, and the worst. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.